So then we start ways to well.
Can you give me examples of those products? Like what products?
Yeah. So, I mean, peptides fall into that chain. Big Pharma wasn't making peptides, but now that the market took off on peptides, Big Pharma is trying to cannibalize peptides and get into that space more and more. Like I said, Merck's looking at over 200 peptides right now. Testosterone therapy, right? When a lot of times when people say, hey, if it worked, everyone would use it in traditional medicine. No. It took 75 years of dogma and confusion for testosterone to pull itself out of the doldrums of the dungeons to be utilized daily as a go-to resource for aging men. And the only reason testosterone made it out was because one guy had the balls to test it. No pun intended, but it was Dr. Morgenthaler, a urologist, famous urologist, said this was prior to Viagra. He said, I've got to do something for these guys who have erectile dysfunction. I don't have an option. And he began using testosterone. And then his colleagues said, well, hold on a second. That's going to cause prostate cancer. And then he began to analyze his patient population and see that it wasn't increasing prostate cancer in his patient population. So then he went back and did a retrospective study all the way back to the 1930s, where we found out that the original study that created that dogma, that maintained its status for over 75 fucking years, was total bullshit. It was a patient population of 3. 2 guys dropped out of the study. 1 guy had levels that went up and down on his prostate levels, and it was all debunked. And now it's proven time and time again, if testosterone was increasing prostate cancer, we would have seen a huge spike in prostate cancer. What we're seeing is about 14% of men develop prostate cancer. And so as we walk through...
What do they think the reason for that is?
For what?
Why do 14% of men develop prostate cancer?
Well, 14% of men in general patient population develop prostate cancer.
General.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Right.
Yeah. Not
population.
Correct. And so the thought was, if we increase certain levels, that we would increase the risk of prostate cancer. And so the challenge becomes, if you really go back and you look at the study, the guy who stayed in the study was chemically castrated. He had a testosterone level of 50 nanograms per deciliter, which is considered chemically castrated, so non-existent. What Morgenthaler discovered was when we take you from 50, chemically castrated, to low, 250, we increase your risk of prostate cancer, because your prostate cancer risk at 0 testosterone is basically 0, right? But once we push past 250, the low number, we now reduce your risk of prostate cancer. In fact, we insulate you from various forms of cancer beyond prostate cancer. So there's a therapeutic benefit if we get you into optimal ranges. And it's called the saturation model. So think of it like this. You can only water a plant so much, right? Once that plant has water, it's not going to absorb any more water. The testosterone can only bind to a certain amount of receptors. Once those receptors are binded, then there's no continual upside risk. And then you get the benefits of testosterone that begin to reduce those risks of cancer. But today in primary care, you will still have doctors who quote a study that's been debunked 100 times. Oh. And that there's this dogma that exists over and over again in healthcare, where it's like the data's there, the research is there, the info's there, but the system itself isn't allowing for it.